Yo, what's popping? It's Tomlinson, and we have two matches from the APAC region to kick off the second week of the Countdown Cup. Starting with the Chengdu Hunters against the Seoul Dynasty. Before I get into that, like this video if you like it, and subscribe for more daily virtual content. And let me know your thoughts on these matches down below. Chengdu against Seoul, 3-1 for Seoul. Chengdu do steal Busan the first map. Chengdu playing Jinmu, Leaf, Gaga, Monk, and Nisha, with Seoul playing Prophet Fitz, Smurf, Iris, and Vindame. Chengdu win 2-0 on Busan, with a mecha base being 199 for Chengdu. But honestly, it feels like Seoul should have won this one. So both teams playing Zarya, Ana, Lucio, and Genji, with Chengdu opting for a Sojourn and Seoul opting for a Sombra. And that happens throughout this match, is you see they want to put Leaf on Sojourn instead of Sombra, because maybe, I don't know if Leaf has really played Sombra very much. And then I guess you can put him on Genji, but then you have, I don't know why they prefer this, but maybe they just don't like the Sombra that much. Anyway, so basically this match, it starts off with a Chengdu cap, because Vindame falls pretty early, and it gives Chengdu the advantage when it comes to choosing the engagement, and then it lets Jinmu and Leaf kind of do their thing. But throughout this whole thing, Gaga's being focused down with hacks pretty hard, and then once Seoul gain control, they are very easily able to use their ults to isolate him, and there's one time where they don't kill him in time, so then Jinmu's able to clean up with a Nano Blade, which flips over for Chengdu. But whenever Chengdu are in control, it's kind of the same story with how they react to Smurf, but it's not the same effectiveness. They're able to walk it a lot better as a group, and then Seoul's able to cap again. But then they actually are their own demise, because they cap the point, and they go in the Chengdu spawn with EMP, and they win the fight, but Smurf gets caught out. For some reason, he's like in the under bridge on the way to point, and no one's near him, so he dies at high energy. And then Chengdu flip the point, and then Seoul don't even trigger overtime. They just lose. But honestly, it felt like Seoul probably should have had that map, or that round. And then Sanctuary actually is a very good map from Chengdu. They play the Sombra Tracer, Ball, Zen, Ana, with Seoul playing the Tracer, Sombra, Diva, Zen, Ana. And the Diva doesn't really do much here. And the biggest difference, honestly, was the Chengdu backline. Monk and Nisha were very active with how they were playing. Oftentimes, Monk was able to find big picks on the Seoul. And Chengdu would mostly give up the point. It wasn't really forced off of them, because they would be like, okay, well, we'll let you take the point, but we'll go dive your backline. And, it doesn't work out sometimes. When it doesn't work out, they lose like 20% of the point, and they hand it over, basically. So kind of like you're losing 40%, because you're not gaining that 20, and then you're giving them 20. So you're like losing a lot, really. But, it works out more often than it didn't, so it was okay. And Smurf on the Diva didn't really feel effective at either peeling for the backline with Gaga on the dive, being able to hit big pile drives, displacing them. Especially when he can be hacked by Jinmu. And he also didn't feel very effective when he was diving with Prophet and Fitz. I didn't see very many dives being set up. It was more like, do they live the Chengdu dive? Yes or no? If yes, you've kind of won. If no, go next. But so a very good win from Chengdu there. And they felt very much in control, and because they won Mecha Base, they're up 1-0. But then it's just Seoul from there on out. They do most of this time, it is just Seoul on top, but they do have some sort of like fight back in them. So King's Row is a 3-1 for Seoul, with Chengdu playing Tracer, Sojourn, Winston, Zenana instead, no Zarya, and Seoul keeping on the Zarya with a Genji Sombra comp. I agree with the Zarya on King's Row for the most part, but as with all Zarya comps, especially when they don't win the Reaper, they run into problems on C. So they kind of roll through A. They get like 430 going into C, because they kill Gaga. Chengdu don't recontest with it, so they fight Arc, but then they EMP and they break that. And then they do a really good play on B, actually, that I want to bring up, where they Nano Smurf in for cart pressure, but then Prophet hits a blade into the backline, kind of split attention on them. So it's one of the instances where it's like, maybe it got more value than Nano Blade, because you had two different forms of like real offense going. And then they have 430 going to C, basically. And then Leaf swaps over to the Ash, and from there, it's Chengdu being able to find picks to start fights off from mostly Leaf and Monk. And Fitz is having a really hard time, because he's getting picked off first very often. And he swaps over to Sojourn off the Sombra, but it still doesn't really work. He still gets picked off a lot. And then even their Nano Blade doesn't work, because Nisha gets a nice sleep on Prophet there. And so they're going into the final fight. It's not looking great. They have a Grav, though, and they have an Overclock. Or I think they have an Overclock. Or Fitz maybe just kills 3 Rock, because they hit a really nice grab, and then Fitz is able to get 3 final blows. And they close out the map, but it was looking really tight there for a bit, because Zarya attacking C cannot control those high grounds. You get a hit scan player like Leave up there, he's going to cause you a lot of trouble. But then going over to the offense, Jinmu moved over to the Genji and Leaf stayed on the Ashe to start. And they also have a decent time getting into A because Fitz ends up dying. Soul Kite back and wait for him, but then Nano boost onto Gaga is able to hold that point out. And Soul gained the arch control now. But then Chengdu, they can bob through that and they get through it. Smurf gets juggled. Because, normally Smurf does the juggling, but he's on the Zarya this time, so he ends up getting juggled. And Vindame Ajaxes. And so they're pushing into B, pushing into the final stage of B. But from there, Prophet Nanoblades, and they stabilize for like the next 3 minutes. One of the key impacts of that is that they don't actually get a Nanoblade off despite playing on a Genji because Nisha accidentally nanos leave instead of the Jinmu Blade, which heavily impacts that, and then Smurf ends up winning the next one. So maybe if that Nanoblade gets more value, they actually get into C, but otherwise, not as much, and Chengdu get held on B. And it's honestly the same for Dorado, almost the exact same thing, except they didn't have a good C. The 3-1 victory for Seoul. They're playing the Winston now, though. Seoul playing Genji, Sombra, Winston on a Brig, and Chengdu playing Tracer, Sojourn, Winston on a Brig. Still no Sombra from Chengdu. They had one last time, but like not really. So anyway, on Seoul's offense, they leave kills Prophet, but then he fucks up his slide. He tries to leave on that high ground and into like the little corridor, but he hits the wall and he dies. So this gives Seoul the choke, and basically Nano Smurf uses that space and ends up capping out A. And then Seoul push on the B, EMP the high ground. They push for cart for free the whole time. They end up winning there, and then they just keep on going because you get a Prophet Blade, you get Smurf cutting off the back line on the B, and then we get 4 minutes into C. And then basically they just waited for ults, and they sent Smurf in with a nano boost, and then they just cap out because Chengdu didn't actually have their ults yet, so it was just free ult wins. And then on Chengdu's offense, you had Seoul having a really good early high ground hold with Prophet on the Tracer, and he was doing a lot, but eventually he does die, and gives Chengdu the opening to go in with a nano boost on Gaga, and it works out pretty well for them. And then they push through the beginning of B with a really good EMP from Jinmu, right? In the castle, the church, not really a castle, and Leaf ends up cleaning them up. So this gets into the end of B. But then Seoul hold out once again at the end of B. There's a really weird play from the Hunter's backline that I don't understand because you have all of the DPS and Gaga are off on the right side on the coast, which you can't see, but on the right over there, right? And then you had them walking low ground, like under the castle. And so Fitz scouts that, and he's like, yo, these guys are just here. So he EMPs them, Smurf pulls up, and they just die. Like, I don't know what they were doing over there. Maybe the plan was to, like, maybe force them to go over there, and then the backline would be more free. But still, they're on the low ground. It just was really awkward, and I don't understand how that play could have gotten value. And they just lose. And then also on top of that, EMP's not a great win con for them. Because you did have, I swear they played the Sombra at the end there. Maybe they swapped, maybe they didn't. But regardless, if they did play the Sombra, I can't remember. Sorry, it's not a great win con anyway because Soul's playing so split. It's just not great. And then you go to New Queen Street, which is a 76-73 victory for Seoul, but it felt more dominant than that. Chengdu only really had a few fights at the end there where they won like 3 in a row, and suddenly they're very close and almost win. But it was like 76 to like 30, I'd say, for the longest time. So you get Chengdu playing Genji, Sojourn, Zarya on a Lucio, and Seoul playing the same thing with the Sombra. The Sombra makes a huge difference here because Seoul's entire game plan is to just focus down Daisy. And it's not like Chengdu are not focusing Smurf. It's just that the pressure from the hack is much more easier to apply, much more consistent than it is for you to expect a leave to just pop off, hit a headshot, and try and commit onto that. Because even if he hits a headshot, depending on how many bubble resources he has, or a nano boost, or a speed boost, or anything, you can't actually capitalize on that still. But yeah, so Leaf is still getting some value, right? And it's not like he's not doing anything. He's getting some fight wins for them, but it's just not enough to outweigh the consistency of the hacks on the Daisy. It controls the map flow, controls everything. Because it's not just you're limiting Daisy, you're actually also limiting Jinmu on the Genji because he has less space to work with, less bubbles to work with, because Daisy is almost forced to bubble every time he gets hacked because after the hack he has to bubble or he's going to take an absurd amount of damage, right? So it just kind of works out better for Seoul here, and they use that to slowly chip away and they gain resources and all that. But then Chengdu, they do have that little bit of resurgence. They do a great job using Jinmu and Leave to like one takes a lot of aggro, so the other one can come in later. Like you get Jinmu going very aggressive with a nano boost, not even with the blade, just a nano boost, which gives Leave a lot of space. He's able to pop off there, and then the next fight you get the opposite going on with an overclock and then Jinmu with a blade. And it's working out pretty well. And then you're getting there, and it looks like they get the checkpoint. They get forced back a little bit, and then they come back even stronger with the grab. And it looks like they can maybe take the lead, but Smurf is able to save the day with a big grab before Chengdu take the lead and Seoul win. So, what does this mean? It means Smurf is the MVP. He had, or the Thompson player of the match, rather. You have Smurf. And it's because his flexibility really helped Seoul here between the Zarya, between the Winston. And the deeper pick wasn't great, I don't think, but it's still better than playing the Zarya there or playing the Winston there, I think. So, do what you must. But yeah, but lets them get the compositional matchup they wanted, and just huge grabs overall. Great map control. But for sure, this was an overall team diff. You could have given this to a lot of different players. Profit is just as good as the candidate, but I don't know. I like how Smurf was doing. I think he played really well in this area. So I'm going to give it to Smurf. And now we're going over to the Shanghai Dragons against the Philadelphia Fusion. It ends up being a 3-2 for the Charge. They weren't playing. Hold on. It ends up being a 3-1 for the Fusion, sorry. So yeah, so you get Shanghai playing Lip Fleta, Void, Bebe, and Izayaki. Bebe has made a return. I don't know why Coach Moon, he ran the numbers and he said, oh yes, we actually need Bebe. No idea how. And Busan, and Philly playing MN3, Zest, Fury, Ambuad, and Fixa. No real surprises there. Busan being a 2-1 for Philly. You have both teams playing Sombra, Tracer on a Zen, but Shanghai playing a Diva against the Zarya on Downtown, Sanctuary, and Mecha Base. They're just Diva enjoyers. I don't hate that, but I don't think they played it particularly well. So Downtown is 125 for Philly. Void is getting heavily pressured by Hacks and Discord and Fury's Beam. So he just can't like do anything. Okay, but they do win the first fight because Fleta gets a nice pick on the aim gods, and that Discord isn't a factor, and then it's just a hack and a beam, and that's much easier to deal with. But after that, Shanghai just don't really do anything. They lose the point, they get 25%, they lose the point, and from there, it just didn't seem like there was a real dive happening or anything. Because it felt like they were focusing on Fury, but at the same time, it also felt like they were trying to go onto the back line. And then when things got messy, AimGod does a really smart play, and he hits a tempo trank, and it resets the fight. Because it forces Shanghai back, because they can't fight in it. And it stabilizes Philly, which actually helps Fury a lot, because it keeps his energy high, and it also resets his bubble cooldown, so it just resets everything. So yeah, that does give Shanghai another opportunity to maybe execute a dive somewhere. But I think the value of getting Fury his bubble cooldowns back after a long fight where they're probably like being used on cooldown, it actually is really smart, and they end up winning. Basically, not off of that, but it does a great job of helping them win that. Then we go over to Sanctuary, which is 199 for Shanghai. They take the initial cap there, but the Fury pressure on the point is just too much for Philly or for Void, and Philly end up flipping. And that's kind of like a lot of what this point was. It was like, can you force Fury off the point? Can you force Void off the point? It felt like point control was way more important in this match compared to the previous one, where Gaga cared much more about diving onto the back line. But I guess that's what happens when you have a Diva against a Zarya and no ball in play. But yeah, Shanghai can commit a lot just to pressure Fury and the point in general. And it was looking really bad for them until Bebe is able to come back after dying and hits a huge long-range nade right on the Fury. And it gives them an opportunity, and they take the point there. But yeah, it's not great for Philly because they fumbled really hard at the end. Where MN3 goes for, they have control of the point. MN3 goes for a really early EMP, but like in front of that rock, you know the big rock with the tablet. And it goes off, but he gets slept and he died, and no one's really able to follow up with it. So Shanghai just push in, and they're able to flip in overtime. They don't even use ults to do it. And in the next fight, you have ults. You have the grab from Fury. But MN3 gets hacked and dies, and then Fury grabs and dies, and then Shanghai win a fight with no ults, and it was last fight. So they had like 4 ults. They didn't even use it in overtime, and Philly didn't even touch. So it's like they just do fumble back to back with MN3. MN3 did some fumbles back to back basically, and they just lose. Then we go over to Mecha Base though. It's 100-51 for Philly, much better this time. Shanghai does a really interesting play with their supports off the rip, and they actually put them on the coastal high ground, which is very interesting. And Lip finds a nice kill in the aim guard, so that gives them I think that gives them the point there. But Philly do a great job pressuring the point, and Bebe is just sitting on the high ground alone 15 million years from his team, so he dies. And from there, it's a lot easier to get onto Void and things like that too. And then they flip and they just never give it back. Fleta keeps getting hacked and killed. MN3 hits a really weird EMP actually. He like panic EMPs and immediately dies. But the counter EMP from Lip isn't much better because Aim God just tranks it. So Philly hold on there. And then there's a moment where Void chased Fury as a max shard Zarya as Baby Diva because he was like half HP and he just died. So that was really weird. But ends up being 151 for Philly. And then we get Icon Wall, which is a 1-0 for Philly. You have both teams still playing their compositions with the Shanghai and the Diva into the Zarya. And Shanghai and their offense, it actually wasn't that bad. But it was pretty bad because they don't cap the point. But the ideas were there. Because you had Zest get slept, and then Philly have to give a lot of space on point because they don't have Zest. And then MN3 dies. And then Angod dies. And it's just like slowly dying. So they give a lot of the point, and they just coop up with Fury in the backline in the point, in the house, like at the back of point. They pop out of the party with Nano Fear, which gives them a lot of space, and actually DMX Void. And from there, MN3 EMPs, and he dies, and things like that. Wait, I think so. That says before getting EMP'd and dying. Oh, no. Lip EMP'd and killed Fury. But then a big play from Fixa here. I'm going to give Fixa praise, never done before, as he sleeps Fleta while he's nano boosted. And if he doesn't get that sleep, there's a good chance that Shanghai probably win that. Also, if Void doesn't get DMAC, there's a good chance that Shanghai win that. But anyway, Zest comes back. He ends up like trading 2, and Philly hold on. And from there, they just kind of win because they have an EMP, they have a grab, and secure the fight. Secure the round, I guess, rather. But it just felt like Shanghai did a good job there. Like, they slowly got the picks they needed. They took to the point, because you can't run into that room against the Max Shard Zarya and the supports. You're not going to win that. So what they had to do is, whenever that EMP came, or whenever the nano boost on Fury came out, you just had to leave. Hopefully that Void doesn't get DMAC. Maybe you have to commit a nano boost. Maybe you have to commit something like that, just to keep him alive. Because after that, you had the EMP. You could just re-engage with the EMP with your mech up, and you'd probably win that fight pretty easily. But because that DMAC comes out, and then Nano Fleta gets slept as a way to keep the fight in their favor, nothing really goes right for them. They just lose. And then on Philly's offense, Void gets pressured down, Lip just dies, and Philly just roll up and win. It's just a roll. And then we get Circuit Royale, so we get some actual gaming. We have a 3-2 win for Shanghai here. WHORU comes in for Fleta, and Li Gong comes in for Bebe. So you have the Shanghai that just won their tournament, right? And it's much better. And you have something a little bit interesting here, is you have Zarya comps dueling on Circuit Royale. So you have the Sojourn, Genji, Zarya, Lucio, Ana for Shanghai against the Zenyatta for Philly. But Lip swaps over to Sombra after one fight. So, not a big, not a lot of Sojourn gameplay there. But basically, it's just coming down to, you have WHORU, you have a grab, just do your thing. So you just raw nano WHORU, and he kills A. He just breaks through A. But also Zest was slept in the back line with a nano blade, so that was also pretty impactful. But WHORU didn't even need the blade to get the job done. And Shanghai are just getting more value out of their ultimates. Even when Philly sets the tempo, they set the tempo with a grab. Shanghai was often able to live through it and set the tempo back with, not set the tempo back, but we were able to counterattack with their grab after, and they just kept on going. Izayagi hit 2 different sleeps on Zest when he was in Nano Blade, and Shanghai do finish the map in overtime, but it was very much like Philly were mostly winning off of like EMP fights or things like that. But they weren't winning enough of them consistently to actually like win completely there. Then you get Philly's offense, where MN3 is on the Sojourn, and so is Lip. They both started on the Sojourn this time. But Lip dies, and Shanghai basically give A because they don't want to take that little fight at the end. Especially in the Zarya, I feel like it's very hard to retake A if they get it going, because the Zarya is going to be pretty high charge most of the time, and then it's a lot different walking into Zarya versus walking into Sigma. And Shanghai hold on B for a while. They're winning their grab vault fights. Then WHORU Nano Blade, and then they get a Lip overclock, and that's the big difference with WHORU is you have another like not guaranteed, but your chances of winning with just Nano Blade are much higher than with Fleta in. And basically Zest hits a Nano Blade and eventually gets kills, and Shanghai lose enough members that they decide to kite back. And they're staging for a recontest with Grav, but MN3 ends up killing Void before he can get it off, so Philly going to Seep. And then they kill 3 more with their Grav on the coast, and they're running towards the end, but Shanghai win the fight without using a single ultimate just by picking them down. And then they go into the spawn, WHORU is able to trade, which gives them even more time, and then it's final fight suddenly, and Shanghai have 5 ults. So you just lose. Um, and that's it. But then we get something very tragic. So that was a very good performance. But we go to New Queen Street, we get Fleta and Bebe back, and it's the worst New Queen Street in the history of Overwatch League. Actually, it's a complete domination, the fastest record for any push map ever in the league. A quick 128 to 0 in like 3 minutes and like 30 seconds or something. I don't know the actual number. 320, I think I want to say, but it was crazy because it didn't start off that bad. You had Lip and Shanghai going to the backline. Lip does die early and they don't get anything, but Fury pushes them back, right? Fury says, okay, I'm going to go aggress now. He aggresses, and he lives and he gets some good stagger kills. He got very low, but he was able to kill some staggers, which gave them a lot more space than you normally get. And then Izayaki gets picked early, and then they cap the checkpoint at 2 minutes, and then that's already wild. You have one real fight, and you cap checkpoint. And then continuing, Izayaki keeps getting picked off early, time and time again. And then Philly get the stagger kills because Shanghai don't really disengage properly. And suddenly you're in their spawn room, and then you keep getting ults, and you keep using them. And Shanghai have ults, but they're not using them right. They don't get any value from them, and it's just like fight back because you're just getting rolled. They capped within 4 minutes. Like, it's unreal. Like, that was not supposed to happen. That's not normally. That's not it. I hope that's a wake up call to just keep playing Fleta. Or no, don't do that. To keep playing WHORU. But like, that was brutal. Anyway, Thompson player of the match is going to go to Fury, and it's less about his gameplay and more about the hero selection because I feel like Fury just a force on the Zarya that Shanghai weren't able to overcome. Like, you saw how some teams like to counter it with the D.Va by just ignoring the Zarya. But Fury wasn't really allowing that to happen, or Shanghai wasn't doing that enough. One of the two. And they tried to pressure him down with hacks, with nades, whatever they were trying to do. It wasn't enough. He was able to get big value, live long enough, and control the map much better than Void was overall, time and time again. So it ends up being a Philly win. But anyway, Shanghai's in trouble, bro. So yeah, like this video. Let me know your thoughts. Subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Deuces.